Vladimir has to be the craziest series on Netflix right now. This show is kinda good and it's also kinda trash TV. This show just happens to be Miller's Girl, that catastrophic movie, except now they've expanded it into a series. That's the best way I can put it. If you don't know what Miller's Girl is, it's about this professor who has an affair on his wife with this kid. Yeah, it's a whole story on its own, but Vladimir follows something similar, except now everyone here is of age. Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
Vladimir is basically a woman's fantasy, but it's kinda weird. So long story short, there's this college professor who's married to another notable professor, but they're in an open relationship, they're in an open marriage, and this woman can't keep her hands to herself. She's pretty hot, you think she has high standards, but that's not really the case. Anyways, there happens to be this new professor called Vladimir, and she has a crush on him and she wants to get crushed by him. I'm not even kidding. So with each and every episode of this first season, we learn more about her character and her personality in the weird family that she's a part of. It's kinda dysfunctional even though they're academics, I know, right? Who would have guessed? So this main character tries to stay away from this guy Vladimir, but at the same time you have to realize that this show is one of those rom-coms, I guess you can call it that. So there's a push and pull, there's so many innuendos and it's just building up to the big moment. As in, we get entire dialogue from this main character about how she's not been able to have an orgasm in a long time, so she has to fantasize about Vladimir. She reads his book and then she's just sitting there in pleasure land thinking about this guy. Sometimes it seems like the story is going somewhere, sometimes it just seems like everything is one big mess, which depending on who you ask, maybe that's the entire point. But sometimes I was just watching it and I was looking at certain scenes and I was just like, this is so unnecessary. There's an episode, the third episode to be exact I think, where Vladimir's wife is supposed to come over to the crib of the main character, but the wife doesn't want anything to do with our protagonist because she gets weird vibes from her, so instead Vladimir ends up pulling up with his kid, and now there's this entire montage sequence of her fantasizing and drooling over this guy's calves. You can't make it up. I'm not even joking, I'm not even trying to be funny. And then we get this slow motion sequence of him taking off his shirt and diving into the pool. I don't know how to feel about this show. This show is like bad, but it's good at the exact same time. I can watch it just to judge it, and then I end up liking it, then I end up not liking it. It's complicated, but you know what's even more complicated is M as a character. M is the protagonist of the story. Clearly I forgot to mention. The reason why I'm saying this is because she's an elderly woman, but she has the mental age of somebody who's in middle school. I don't know, I just find it to be completely weird. That's the problem with series or movies that tackle this kind of trope of the woman being infatuated with some guy who she shouldn't really be in love with. You can call it the 50 Shades of Grey effect. I tried to watch that movie, I couldn't because it was facing the exact same issues, right? It's these cliche scenarios. The woman always ends up fantasizing about some guy and it's just like, okay, but do we really need to be doing this? The real reason 50 Shades of Grey was more acceptable is because the dude was mega rich. When I was watching Vladimir, I was like, you're just somebody who doesn't know how to not sleep with your colleagues. He's an English professor, he's not worth 7 figures. You don't really need to abandon John just so that you can go and be with this European guy Vladimir. Like really? Really now? Another problem I have with this series is that a lot of things just end up falling flat. You see, when you take shows that center around a family that's somewhat dysfunctional, you get to see some character growth with each of the family members, right? For example, let's just look at Modern Family. Modern Family would swing between plot A, plot B, plot C, plot D. And each of those plots would tackle different characters. Sometimes they would intertwine, sometimes they wouldn't, but either way, as the episodes progressed and as the seasons continued, you'd start to like the characters more and more. When it comes to this show, we don't really like anyone in this family. I like John, and it's funny how John is actually the big bad guy because he couldn't keep his dick in his pants. He's been suspended throughout that first season, so he's pretty much being a bum at home, doing nothing other than annoying his wife. Then we have John and M's bisexual daughter. She doesn't really do anything. At first I thought she was the comedic relief, but no, not really. She's just that one kid who's the only child, so of course she has to have problems with her parents. I've seen this one too many times in TV shows. I was kind of hoping they were going to get it right, but it just ended up falling flat. And funny enough, the main character, M, is not likable. The only redeeming quality, if you can even call it that, is the fact that she's hot. I was like, okay, I kind of see why you find it hard to be by yourself, you know? But as I was watching the episodes, I was thinking to myself, hold on, you're kind of a narcissist and you're self-absorbed. I don't want to spoil, but let me give you a rundown of a couple of things that take place that made me look at the screen and go, I don't like you. Okay, for one, she has a student who she's supposed to be serious with and be hands-on with and do something for her to help her get into another college, blah 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 blah. She ends up being overcome with lust and she doesn't do it. Secondly, she's trying to justify the fact that she now has a crush on Vladimir, a married man, because she's in an open marriage and she's the one who came up with the idea of having an open marriage, and she says, oh, I never used that clause of us being with other people except for the last guy I was with, whose name is David. David is some guy who she works with and he's not even the most handsome looking guy. So for her to go behind John's back and be with David, it was just kind of, you know, it's like you really left John for this guy. And thirdly, she has a former student that she had to fail, and then when she tries to rekindle that relationship because she feels bad about the entire situation, she just skedaddles out of the meeting, out of their discussion. So she doesn't change. And it's always about her wanting what she wants. Clearly she has a lust problem. Speaking of problems, another thing about this show that kinda grinds my gears is the pacing. It's kinda annoying how almost every 6.5 minutes of every episode, we always get the main character having this daydream, this fantasy about Vladimir. It gets to the point where you even expect it after 7 minutes or so. You're just like, oh, here we go again, she's wet, thinking about this guy, fantasizing about him. This is the problem when books of the erotica genre try to get adapted into films or TV series. They always end up becoming like this. You see, when you read erotica on a piece of paper, it leaves much to the imagination. Now, when you're looking at it visually on a screen, everything is put out the way the director wants, and it may not really come across as the original writer intended for it to be. You get what I mean? Anyways, I mean, when all is said and done, at least we got to see James Bond's wife looking really good in almost every scene that she was in. Well, actually, why am I lying? She was looking stunning all the time she was on the screen. So I mean, beggars can't be choosers. I can't complain too much. I can't rip into this show too much, even though it seems like that's all I've been doing. Sometimes the show is funny. Sometimes I'm looking at it with a bombastic side eye. Sometimes I'm just there like, who really likes this, you know? I'm sure even the target audience, that elderly demographic, doesn't really find this that appealing. Anyways, ladies, let me know down below in the comments.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video, Consider watching one of the two on your screen right now. And don't forget, villains tell the best stories.